God's will.
What you're seeking is a blessing from God.
You must expect a miracle.
You have the power of choice.
Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ.
Welcome to Life Today Live. I'm Randy Robinson. Good to have you here today. And, you know, I've got someone who's got a new solo album out, his first solo album. And normally I don't have artists who have, you know, necessarily their first solo album out. But I think we're okay today because before Mac Powell's solo, you know, Third Day did okay in the marketplace. I mean, we're talking selling over 10 million albums over 3 decades, 4 Grammys, an American Music Award, 24 Dove Awards. You know, this is a band, Third Day. If you listen to any Christian music, you know Third Day. And if you don't listen to Christian music, you still go grab some Third Day and get the new album from Mac Powell, the voice of Third Day. The new album looks like this. It is called New Creation, and I am pretty excited as someone who loves music, loves good music, and love Third Day for sure. Excited to have Mac Powell on. Mac, great to have you on Life Today Live.
Man, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. First question, the question that you've answered probably a million times in the last 3 years, but every Third Day fan wants to know, what happened to Third Day?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We had our farewell tour in June of 2018. And so it's been over 3 years now. But a lot of people don't know we didn't actually tour for about a year and a half before that. So for me, it's been 5 years of not touring with Third Day. But you know, the news gets out a little bit slow. So I think there's still some fans that are like, wait, what? The band's not together anymore? And so but it's been interesting. You know, it was being together for almost 25 years. We loved each other. We had a great time. We had a great season, but everybody kind of had things they wanted to move on and do.
Sure.
And so we had always talked about not being one of those bands that if we were going to be done, we didn't want to make a big announcements because we didn't want to take away from the chance of maybe touring again somewhere down the road. And we also didn't want to be one of those bands like the Eagles that said, all right, we're done. And then they do 10 years of farewell touring, you know? So we just were kind of going to fade off into the sunset. And then something interesting happened, and I may be giving you more information than you want.
No, I love it. I love it.
Tom Petty had passed away in the fall of 2017. And I was just kind of moping around. He was one of my favorite artists of all time. And my wife said, for about 2 weeks, I'm kind of sad. And she's like, what's going on with you? What's wrong? And I said, well, my friend died. And even though I'd never met him, I felt like I knew him through his music. And I'm sure you've got artists like that you love, and you feel like you're best friends with somebody because you love their music and you feel like you know them through that. And so my wife called me one day. She was doing something different, and I was away from the house, and she said, I know you don't want to hear this, but I think you guys should do a farewell tour. And I said, yeah, we always said we weren't going to do that. But I thought, she said, the way that you feel about Tom Petty, people are going to feel that way about Third Day. And so we got together and talked about it, prayed about it, and decided to go do about a month is all the time we had. So we did a farewell tour in a month across the U.S., gave people one more chance to see us. And my hope is, you know, somewhere down the road, we'll be able to do some more shows together and maybe do a small tour together. I don't think we'll ever come back. Everybody's kind of got their own lives now and things they do. So I don't think we'll ever come back and be a band forever again. But I would love to tour with those guys again somewhere down the road.
At least you didn't call it When Hell Freezes Over.
Exactly.
So you mentioned Tom Petty, and I'm curious because, man, I'll geek out and talk music all day long. And we'll get to the album. Let's talk influences. I'm actually curious. Who would you consider your musical influences?
Yeah, well, there's a ton of them. I grew up listening to my mom and dad's record collection. And my dad was in the military when I was a little kid, so we lived in Taiwan. So we got all these bootleg records for like 50 cents. And so there were stacks of albums at my house. And my dad's favorite band was Creedence Clearwater Revival. So that was a big influence on me. Whether I wanted it to be or not, I was going to hear some Creedence. A lot of Southern rock stuff like the Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner. A lot of singer-songwriter albums like from James Taylor, Jim Croce, Elton John. So that was kind of an influence. And then through middle school, I was a big pop listener. I loved pop music like Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie. And But there was always country was always there. I grew up in Alabama. So if you're from Alabama and you grew up in the 80s, then of course you got to listen to the band Alabama.
Sure.
So many influences like that, and thousands of more.
Yeah, the new album, New Creation. This is what would be different as far as the way this came together versus like a Third Day? Because I've listened to the first couple of cuts, and it's the sound that I like. Of course, I mean a lot of that's your signature vocal.
Yeah.
Your tone. You're one of those guys that when you hear on the radio, I know who it is. I don't wonder who is this. But what would be a little bit different from a Third Day album here?
Well, this was a very, very different process for me. With Third Day, all of us shared in the songwriting. For the most part, I would write the song, present it to the band, then we'd work the rest of it out together, and those guys would put their parts on it. We were never one of those bands that would, get the record company, go find the best song, go to the publishing companies or go write with all these pro writers in Nashville. We never did that. We just kind of did our own thing. And so this time after Third Day had ended, I made a couple of independent country records. And from that, I was going to Nashville writing with these great writers in Nashville. And I said, well, I want to continue that process in the Christian market when I start this Christian album. So to be honest with you, I didn't think I would like that process. I thought I'm going to go up there a couple of times and write and get frustrated and just end up doing it myself. But to the credit of those writers who are great friends now, I had an amazing time. It's different when you're trying to do your own thing, which I really respect artists who do that. But there's something about, for me in this season at least, being able to get together with guys who are constantly working on that craft of songwriting, constantly looking for new ideas and thoughts. And so to bring that in with some ideas that I had and even, get some ideas from them, it was a really cool process. I loved it. I thought I was going to have a record out. I started that in January of 20, and I thought I was going to have a record out at the end of that year. But of course, COVID threw us all a curveball. But it was really good. It worked out for the best. It gave me more time to write more songs, to develop those songs that I already had. And so excited now that the new album, New Creation, is out. Given that
if people don't understand this, sorry, but when you're writing in the Christian market, you do limit sort of your themes. You're obviously writing along a biblical theme, which it narrows it. After 30 years, I'm just wondering, how hard is it to write something that you haven't written before, in a sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally. I think for me, there really is, there's that scripture that says there's nothing new under the sun. I think King Solomon wrote. And I think in some regards that's true. And so with songs, there's been song ideas that have been done. Anything I come up with has been done before. However, there's different ways of approaching those ideas. There's a lot of people say, when I go to do a concert, how do you not get bored of doing these same songs over and over and over? Well, it's because there's a different audience every time. Yeah. And that's what brings the freshness to it. And for me, when you're singing a song for the millionth time, if there's other people there enjoying it, singing along, and that group of people there is for the first time, it's a fresh experience. And so I think it's the same with songwriting. I think there can be these same thoughts and ideas. I mean, I've written a ton of songs about my love for my wife. I've written a ton of songs about the prodigal son, and you can go on and on about these things that I've repeated. And yet, if you put a different chord progression, you put some different words, a different feel, it makes it all fresh. And so that's the continuing and the fun part of the challenge of writing something like Christian music, of kind of, as you said, in a way being limited of what you can talk about, and yet it can be presented in different ways.
One of the things actually that I appreciated about Third Day, and I know carries over into this album, is that you don't so much stick to the strict church formula. You color outside the lines, and to me it's more relatable a lot of times. I mean, I get it. I love the worship music. That kind of genre. I grew up with Carrie Job, and I love what they do. But you're writing more earthy, kind of real
Real life
regular
stuff.
life
Yeah.
song. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I
And
think so. And
like,
I'm
go ahead. Yeah.
I think that I had the great gift of being able to do both. Worship was always a big part of Third Day, but we didn't consider ourselves a worship band per se.
Mm-hmm.
We made worship music and a couple of worship albums, and it was always part of our shows, but we weren't kind of stuck in that. And for me now, it's been a little bit over a year and a half now. I've been a worship leader at a church in Atlanta, Church of the Apostles, and it gives me a chance to be able to do both worship music and kind of write my own songs and kind of have more, how can I say this, kind of more life experiences instead of in these kind of songs like New Creation, for example. That's the name of the record. That's the name of one of the songs. There's a lot of autobiographical stuff in these songs. Now, some of it's just storytelling as well. I've got a song, for example, Love is the Reason. I start out and the first verse says, Mama dragged us to church every Sunday.
Right.
And heaven knows I didn't want to go. And I tell the story about being a kid and not wanting to go to church, but Mama making me go to church. And then the second verse, and that's true, that happened in my life. The second verse, I talk about my brother signing up to and it's about songs about sacrifice called Love is the Reason. So mom, sacrificing, having these punk kids trying to get them to go to church, and then my brother signing up to join the military to give the sacrifice that way. Well, I don't have a brother. I've got a sister, and she wasn't in the military, but I love telling that story. So there's a cool thing about being a songwriter where you have these everyday experiences that I go through, but also there's experiences that other people have gone through and can relate to, and so I kind of tell that story, even though it's not necessarily my story.
I love the storytelling aspect of music. One of my favorite artists of all time is Sting, and he tells different stories. I mean, it's a whole different thing. How much of that is? I mean, obviously you're doing that on the new album. Is that sort of more of the approach of this album?
Not as much as I would like. I'm a big fan. I was talking earlier about Tom Petty. I love Bruce Springsteen, and he's one of the greatest storytellers. He's an amazing. And whenever I hear one of their songs, I go, man, I wish I could do that more. So I've done it, of course, in years past, but I want to do more of that storytelling approach. And when I did my couple of country records, that kind of lends, country music especially lends more to that. So I was glad to be able to do that. But yeah, I want to kind of carry some of that over. And that's the other good thing about that song, Love is the Reason. It's probably my favorite song on the album. It's a good bridge between what I was doing in country music and what I'm doing now with this solo record.
All right, this is the new album from Mac Powell. It is New Creation. It is available now. If you want a little taste of it, you can jump on YouTube or something, and Apple Music or whatever.
Yep, Spotify,
all those guys, and check out the singles New Creation and River of Life, which I love the groove.
Thanks.
River of Life being a single, Love is the Reason being the latest single. Both of them great, but you'll get a good taste of Mac Powell. And if you're a Third Day fan, you're just gonna love this too. I want to ask you about this because anybody that has heard your music and loves your music, they know you the way you know Tom Petty, which is we feel like we know you, and
right.
we love what you do. What do we not know about you? What do we not know about Mac Powell?
Man, I think. Well, I don't know if this is really news, but I'm sure that most people, or a lot of people, know this and some don't. Is I'm kind of a nerd. Like I grew up with comic books and just like kind of nerdy things like that. So I'm a little bit of I really love entertainment when it comes to movies and music, and I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to all that stuff. So TV, I love, even though I'm not an actor at all, and I've been asked to act in a few things, that's just not my gifting. So, but I love that art, and writing and directing and all that stuff. Even though I don't do that stuff, I'm a great appreciator of it. So I'm not sure if people know that about me, but yeah, I'm just kind of a normal I think sometimes people see this guy and see a rock star, but when people who really know me go, yeah, he's just kind of a normal dude. I go to the grocery store, all that kind of stuff. Like I do my own laundry, all that stuff. So I'm just kind of a normal dude. So I assume that people assume that, but you never know. So.
Yeah, no, you never know. No, if you're not a good actor, that makes you perfect for some Christian movies. Just saying.
You said it, not me.
Yeah, right. No, you didn't say that. Okay. As far as you grew up in church, not wanting to go. I mean, we get that. A lot of kids are that way. Even good kids, even people who love Jesus. We were kids at a time, right?
Yeah.
What has been your sort of spiritual journey? I mean,
yeah,
it sounds great in your songs. Has it been as great?
I grew up in church. Grew up, basically. Once I told you my dad was in the military, and once we moved back to the States, we moved to the little town Clanton, Alabama, where he grew up, and so it's south of Birmingham. That's where I grew up until I was a sophomore in high school, and went to this little bitty church in the middle of nowhere, right off a gravel road. It's called Providence Baptist Church number 2. I have no idea where the first one was. And, it was kind of the family church that my dad's family went to, and his dad's family. And so really I made a faith confession at an early age. And I really do feel like I believe, that was true. But I just didn't live it out. I think God kept to his side of the bargain, but I didn't fully surrender to him. So I went through middle school, high school, kind of doing my own thing. When I was a senior in high school, I was in a garage band. I always wanted to be in music. And so I was finally in this garage band that was getting a little traction. We started to do some stuff, and I was really scared about life because I'm about to graduate, and we didn't have a lot of money in my family. So it was kind of a lower middle class income. So I was like, I don't know if my family's going to afford me to go to college. I don't have any really life skills to get a real job. So I was just scared. I didn't know what to do, to have to go into the real world, And so I sat down on the edge of my bed, and somebody at church one time had said, hey, you should read the book of Romans. And I'm like, okay, I should do that. I need some guidance. And so I didn't even know if that was Old Testament or New Testament. I had no idea. And so I looked up the index, Romans, all right, here it is, page, whatever, turned to it. I started reading it. And really for the first time, God's Holy Spirit just filled me and kind of was revealing his full truth to me. And so, man, I just wanted to totally surrender to God after that. I wanted everything that I did to be for him and about him. And so I went to Mark Lee, who was in the garage band with me. We went to high school together, and I said, hey, I'm quitting. And he said, why? And I said, well, I'm going to surrender to God. I'm singing things I don't need to be singing. I'm hanging out in places doing things I don't need to be doing. I'm going to give my life to God. And he said, and he grew up in church. He said, why don't we start a Christian band? I was like, great. What's that? I had no idea. I didn't know there was Christian music. I had heard of Petra and Amy Grant, and at the time Michael W. Smith had a single on the radio, but I didn't know anything. I'd heard of a couple of guys, but I didn't know anything about Christian music. And I just thought, man, this is such a wow, you can do that. And my wife now of 25 years, at the time we were dating, and she was doing what I do not ask my girls to do. She was missionary dating me, getting me to go to church more, praying with me. And I was like, yeah, okay, this beautiful redhead. I'm like Charlie Brown following the little redhead girl. I'm going to do that. And she gave me a couple of Christian music albums, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe it, that this was something that was happening and people were doing. And so I just knew right away, this is what I want to do. I love music. I have this newfound faith in God, and so I'm going to make that happen. And it slowly turned into what is Third Day.
I love it. I love the faithfulness. You didn't go through a striper phase, did you?
No, not really. No, I don't. Even though I probably would look better with makeup, I didn't do that.
God, that's funny. So when someone comes to a Mac Powell concert, now you've been touring with Stephen Curtis Chapman, and you're doing a little Christmas K-Love tour. So people can check the website, macpowell.com, see where you're going to be. What do you want them to walk away with?
Well, I want people to be encouraged. But first of all, I've run into so many artists in the past who would say it's not about the music, it's about the message. Well, if the music's not any good, nobody wants to hear your message. And so I think, first of all, I want people to be entertained by the music. I want it to be something that they can, bob their head to and tap their toe to. But at the same time, I hope it goes deeper than that. I hope it gets to a place where people are really encouraged in their faith. And no matter where they are in their faith journey, that my music will, help them take a step towards asking those questions about where they are in their relationship with God. So I want people to be encouraged.
Yeah, and you've been doing it for quite a while now. I'm guessing that there ain't no retirement for Mac Powell. This is what you're called to do. This is what you love.
Yeah,
So we got lots more of
absolutely.
this coming.
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's two things. There's no retirement in the kingdom of God. I think, when he shows the example of using Moses until he was 120, I love that. I'm not going to live to 120, of course, but Moses had 3 lives. He had his first 40 years, he's like the Prince of Egypt. He's got the best of stuff. This next 40 years until he was 80 years old, he lives in a desert. Now, we think of the desert as a negative, bad thing, but he grew in his faith there. He met his wife. He had his kids in the desert. And then at 80 years old, God says, now you're ready. And I just kind of feel like, in a way, even though I've had a great career, in a way, I feel like I'm just getting started. So I'm excited about that. There is no retirement in the kingdom of God. And 2, I've got 5 kids. So yeah, there ain't no retirement for me. I'm going to keep working as long as I can.
What? Oh, so, that's not easy when you're touring a lot, raising 5 kids.
Yeah. It's Mama is super mama. She really is. I mean, I couldn't do it without her being such a great mother. And, it's for me to be able to do this. It's not just me. There's a lot of people behind the scenes. There's management companies, and there's, business managers and booking agencies and all that. It's a lot of great musicians, and so many people help me to do what I do. But if it weren't for super mama, Amy Powell, there's no way I could do this. So I'm thankful for her. And I think part of the thing when you're on the road all the time and have a big family, even if you have a small family, it's like to really commit to being, when I'm home, I'm home. Somebody asked me the other day, when you're in town, where do you go meet people for coffee? I'm like, I don't go meet people for coffee. When I'm home, I'm home. I stay home with my wife and my kids, and it's, focused on that. And so I'll get all my fun time on the road when I'm out on the road.
I'm curious. I know from my experience, I've got 4 kids. When I started having kids, it changed how I viewed God. I understood. I thought the way He loves us more, even the way He disciplines us, but the way that we don't earn His love. And I know I hear that grace. You get grace. I can hear it in the music. Did that, having kids and that relationship affect your writing and everything?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know how it can't. You truly do see the love of God, because you have this unconditional love that you have your kids. And then there's also the bad side of it. There's you also, when your kids do something wrong, you can get angry at them and you can be disappointed, but you're still going to love them, and you want to try to discipline them in the right way. And so it's not only do you see this as a parent, this unconditional love that you have for your kids, but you have this grace and mercy that, that wouldn't have on other people,
right?
I think.
Right.
And so just realizing that God has that for us, I just sometimes honestly just still, after I don't know how many 30 something years of being a believer, just shake my head, just going, I don't get it. I get it in a sense, but I don't fully understand how you could have this feeling for me. And even as a parent and knowing how I feel for my kids, God's love is so much greater, we're told. And so I don't know how that can be, but I know that it is, and I believe that by faith, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, and we hear it in your music, and we love it. Man, appreciate your time. I love your music. And if anybody's not familiar with Mac Powell with Third Day, I mean, go run and get New Creation. It's available now. If you want to just, like I said earlier, check out the singles. River of Life, Love is the Reason. The Center of It All is another one. You can go check those out, and you'll find out why so many people were Third Day fans, Mac Powell fans, and I appreciate it. Is there anything I missed? Anything you want to mention before I let you go?
No, man, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I really appreciate you having me. Of course, and it's so silly when artists say, "Well, I'm not excited about the record." Of course you are. If somebody wouldn't put it out if they weren't excited. I wish I could come up with some more adjectives, but it's really, I'm thankful. That's the season. That's the thing I'm in right now, is just through all this COVID stuff and, all the disagreements, especially in the States and just around the world with all kinds of things, and racial tension, all this stuff going on, all this negative stuff. at the same time, man, it's made me thankful. It's made me thankful for my family, for life, to be able to do this, continue to make music as my career. And I'm a blessed man. So I'm thankful and I appreciate you having me.
Oh, well, and yeah, no, I appreciate you, and appreciate all you guys hanging out, watching. Do check out the album. You can check out macpowell.com. It looks like this, and you'll love it. I mean, you'll love it. So there you go. Go check it out right now. We're done. We'll see you again next time here on Life Today Live.
I just want to do God's will.
What you're seeking is a blessing from God.
You must expect a miracle.
You have the power